All right, everybody, welcome back to the Racer Podcast number 2. And I do have Godsword. I know he's a fan favorite of everybody from the first podcast, so I just decided to have him back again. Can you imagine that? Um,
Unbelievable.
so, anyways, I do have another guest, and his name is Jimmy Skimmy. He is from our clan chat here in RuneScape, and he will
Hello.
be joining us. But anyways, I if you didn't listen to the first podcast that I had, Godsword, I want you to introduce yourself again. And Jimmy, once Godsword's finished, go ahead.
Hello, my in-game name, is Godsword. I've been playing this game for the vast majority of my life, with some on and off, and mostly maxed going for all pets. And that's it.
I too am a Max Dandy. Been playing since 2006. Spent most of my life on this game as well. Hunting for pets, light raiding here and there. Pretty much bank standing all day.
When you guys say you've been playing this game for most of your life, I mean, what time are we talking about here?
What
This
was
is
the last
probably
word?
like fifth, sixth grade, finding it on miniclip, and rest is
Mini
history.
Okay.
Yeah, and same with you, Godsword.
Yep, it was mini clip. Mini
Yeah.
clip.
Yeah. So I'm pretty much the same way. I've been basically playing this game since I was in the fifth grade personally. And I've asked this question before, but I want to know your guys' um, earliest recollection of RuneScape. So Jimmy, can you tell me like, I mean, you said you started in sixth grade, so like, what's going on there? What do you know?
Three of like my favorite memories as a noob was asking where Lumbridge Castle was when I was standing right in front of it. And then there was dying to a unicorn. Pretty sure that was my first death. And then there was the frog random event where I ignored that NPC, got teleported to the frog world, and I thought my account was just soft locked. So I made an entirely new account, started from there until someone told me how to get out.
Solid experience. I guess they found out that you were a bot after all. The random event stopped you.
Pretty much did its intended job.
I think I probably had like basically the same thing. Do you remember having to ask your parents for like membership or anything like that?
Oh, definitely. They would never allow the online purchases with a credit card. They were sketched out about that, and in hindsight, for good reason. So it wasn't until the prepaid cards came out at like 7-Eleven, and that's where I started getting membership, and that was like 2008.
Yeah, that that is so fun. I literally did the exact same thing where I was either too scared to ask my parents for the membership to use their credit card on the game, but me and my friends would literally go to 7-Eleven on our skateboards or whatever and buy the cards, the membership cards.
Yeah,
This
I was always
one
asking my
membership
mom.
I encountered, I was able to convince them.
Did you have the same thing, Godsword?
Nope, I got to skip the membership card era. I was successful in my convincing because, like I said, my friend who mostly introduced me to the game, he he already had membership, so I had a source of this is legit by my friend's parents. So I was safe in that regard.
Yeah. And during that time, I mean, we're talking like 2008 is mainly where I started, I would say. My main, my personal recollection of the game is basically killing hill giants, stuff 50 attack, 50 strength, and wielding like the Granic Maul and just killing noobs with that thing, basically.
Yeah,
Oh man, I got the
I
obby
mean,
mall
kind
at
of
some
all.
point. I was so happy with the obby mall.
Yeah,
That and the Dragon Two-Hander. That was my personal favorite.
I kind of
nice.
skip the D2H era. I remember I had long arguments with my friend. He was he pretty much believed the longsword was better than the scimitar at every tier because he yeah, I don't really remember exactly, but we had this argument forever, and I always stuck with the scimitar because I used to pronounce it scimitar, and it was the cooler weapon by far. So
Mm,
I
yeah,
mean,
definitely Scimitar.
yeah, I was just gonna say
But
Jimmy Skimmy. He probably knows
yeah,
the pronunciation of that.
so like it's Scimitar, but when you say skimmy, that's when the C is hard.
mm,
I don't make the rules. That's literally how they
Yeah,
said it back in the
yeah,
day. So
yeah. And I do remember completing what's the quest to unlock those? It's
Lost City for the
Lost
dagger and the
City.
longsword, and then Monkey
Yeah,
Madness
that
for
was
the
like the
skimmy.
main quest. Hey, I've got to do this to get my dragon longsword and be a beast, basically.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's funny. Um, so jumping a little bit ahead, we got the collection log in RuneScape. Do you guys have were you playing old school RuneScape when the collection log came out? Is there items that you guys might have obtained before it came out, or what's your opinion on it?
I think
Um,
you can go first.
Probably missing like a pair of tacits or something prior to drop log era. So I wasn't really doing like much big PVM. Like Bandos was pretty much the go-to. So I don't think I looted much, if anything.
I had quite a lot of stuff before log. As I was already far maxed and quit the game for my 5 year hiatus. Uh, so I have a lot of stuff missing in my log, but I have no idea what it is. I'm missing one Tebow for sure, probably some ancestral pieces, and I mean I think it's a good update. I think it gives people something to do, and it's kind of like my original goal for pet hunting was similarly focused on the essence of it gives me a reason to do a variety of content instead of just sticking and repeating the same thing over and over again. I think it's good that they adjusted some of the rarity on some of the items that were for log because while I understand, third age is going to be third age, but some of the other ones just felt kind of silly. Things like Skotizo, Jar, and they're just kind of petty to the people who are arguing, oh, but it's collection log, you don't need it. I'm like, yeah, but it's also kind of stupid if you mark something as like an achievement, but that achievement is severe RNG based. Because essentially, like, none number on log slots, and it's just like if you get this one thing spoon, you effectively have X amount of hours of progress, like hundreds of hours of progress more than someone who didn't get it spoon.
Hmm.
Kind of dumb.
Do you see a divide between is there a niche with collection loggers and like PVMers per se, or like where you know what I'm trying to say?
I think they're often the same category of people. Uh,
Yeah, usually just falls under the completionist aspect of it.
I think there are the people who will be PVM only. They'll have a shitload of TOB KC with really good times, and they'll have 1750 total, and they will log in this game to do TOB and log off. Uh, and then you have people who just, like seeing something increase, some number go up. And collection log is one of these things that people will keep on pursuing. And similarly, just it gives you something to do. Many people don't really intend to complete it, but at least you see progress post maxing because that's really one of the biggest things I think is once you max in this game, back then especially, there was nothing else to really try and do other than pet hunting because those were items you can unlock in quotes. But everything else was just you're spending time, you could get more money, you can get more XP, which is just ranks that I personally never really cared too much about. I cared about when I was high rank because it felt kind of cool to maintain it, but then it's kind of stopped caring over time.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I can't imagine maxing pre Chambers of Xeric because that's what you did, correct?
Yeah,
It and that's not pre Grand Exchange, or is it?
that's not pre-Grand Exchange. No.
It's not pre Grand Exchange, but did you have to? I mean, if you're buying supplies to max, are you buying off other players for half of it, or what?
I did a lot of buyables early. You were able to profit off most buyables back then, which that's kind of the neat thing with trading is if you were the bulk buyer, you set the prices, and if you were the bulk seller, you also set the prices. You had a lot more control. So if you were ahead without the Grand Exchange, it was much easier to stay ahead. And with things like Herblore that most people would lose a lot of money training, I made money. I profited off a lot of different skills because being ahead early on just gave you this massive advantage. So
Yeah, as for me, I was kind of just messing around, doing whatever. It wasn't until way later, like 2020, where I was able to actually max and get a majority of the skills like past 75 and whatnot. So can't really speak much on the pre-GE. Made like some money off I sold like an Addy scimitar probably like week 2 of the release. Like when old school first dropped, made like a nice 40K off of that. So probably the nicest thing I did.
So with that being said, was it easier to max back then, or is it easier to max now?
it's definitely now. You can make
Oh
money
yeah.
so much faster and you have so many faster methods.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Outlet Sepulchre alone.
I also
Haha.
AFK'd most of my maxing. Like the vast majority was AFK'd. Uh,
Yep.
Keep in mind, Zaya already existed, and they had like the busted Zaya when Zaya was first released. You know, Blood and Soul runes. How you stop mining the essence. When it first released, you would not stop mining the essence. You'd still keep going.
So it was basically one click and you're a full
Yep.
envy.
It was like 2 minutes of AFK, which
Yeah,
is absolutely beautiful because it was consistent and fixed
absolutely.
AFK.
Yeah.
I did that all day, every day, because I knew it was going to get gutted. And it did eventually. It took a lot longer than I expected, but
Yeah.
I sat on that so long.
Yeah. So being Max myself, I tell this to a lot of people who are going for Max is, man, I really enjoyed the AFK skills. I really enjoyed uh, wood cutting, for example, because when I'm wood cutting AFK redwoods, I'm watching a stream or I'm watching a Netflix show on the side, and and that is something I took for granted. I was like, holy crap! After the fact, I really like that. Is that something that you guys did as well?
Absolutely. And I am pretty much out of AFK grinds now as far as pets and skills go. So that's probably why I like really just grinded the hell out of Guardians of the Rift because it was a whole log that I hadn't even touched, and I still need to transmog for the runecrafting pet. So
I still need that one.
yeah, it's hell of a grind, but somewhat AFK during certain parts, so it's something.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about the collection log. Um, is there anybody content creator wise that has inspired you over the decades? Is there somebody that you watch religiously in streams? Anything like that?
I don't really watch RuneScape content anymore because
Yeah. Back in the day, though,
Really?
like to say it was to Noob Show,
oh boy,
Skychi, Nightmare
Man, that is
RH,
old school.
yeah,
Excel.
Spark Mac. Back, he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
slow back then even, but yeah, there was a couple of I Kasoi. I don't know the full name. Castle Wars, all those dudes back in the day. They're really cool.
Dude, Castle Wars was such a cool dude.
Bro, believe it or not, I beat that dude at a game of Fistigathics.
Wow, what an absolute maniac you are.
Brother, I was like the shitty noob account, and I managed to escape that guy. Because, like, just to give it like a rundown, it was like a hunter versus the hunted kind of a game. And when he was the hunter, I managed to outmaneuver him, and was pretty proud of that shit.
Yeah, I never liked Fist of Guthix because the center was extremely laggy, and
Yeah.
my computer
Yeah.
couldn't handle it. So, or my internet. I don't know which one it even was. But
God, especially like when HD dropped, and I was trying to make it work on that laptop. Just wasn't happening.
So there are. So you guys can't think of any modern-ish creators that ring a bell who inspire you or anything like that?
Can definitely mention Settled. Swampletics was probably like the
Sure.
only like modern series that I like sat through and just thoroughly enjoyed. But
I like
those
watching. Who's the guy that does a lot of these weird ass uh Iron Man style accounts or the self-imposed challenge things.
It could be. Damn. I think I know who you're talking about. It
Oh,
is.
uh,
Are you talking about the guy who basically breaks the game?
no, he has like some chunk locked account. He plays like I
Oh,
don't know.
Verf.
Yeah. Verve have some cool ones. I liked watching the PvP World Iron Man things that a lot of different people did. I like this other guy. He does. I think he's a bit smaller. He does like a boss lock Iron Man account.
Sure.
It's a bit gimmicky, but it's
Yeah.
something unique.
That is, and the reason why I brought that up is because I thought it would be, me personally, I watch streamers every day. I watch their YouTube videos. For example, No Monkey or 80Con or Kirby is somebody who I I watch their stream and I'm like, holy crap, man! I prefer to watch somebody who's better than me, and all those guys are way better than me at specifically PVM, and they inspire me. I'm like, I don't know. So I'm actually kind of surprised that you guys don't necessarily watch modern day YouTube videos, like even like Torvesta or you know what I'm saying?
None. They don't even show up in my recommended. I like this guy called Neri. Also small videos.
Yeah, absolutely. He's probably the one who
Dude,
convinced you to use Jesse, huh?
no, I got my Inferno kit before that. But when I saw his video, I'm like, I fucking love this guy. Because, there ain't many people who will publicly make videos about doing things the shitter way and just acknowledging, like, hey, mate, you're just here to get a completion, and that's it. And because so many people hate that mindset in this game, and I'm like, fuck, that's me. I have a clear goal. I'm going to get it, and I'm going to brute force anything and
Yeah,
everything.
absolutely. I've watched his videos before and I like his style. I like his editing, and to be honest, yeah, I totally see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the Inferno is my next question. When, where were you guys during the Inferno release? I mean, when was your first cape? Can you explain any of that?
Oh, boy.
I remember the hype when Wooks got it for the first time. I remember when he was sending attempts, and I was pretty hyped. Actually, I will say that he is a guy that I will watch occasionally, maybe once in a blue moon, just because of the crazy stuff that dude pulls off. It's nuts.
Yeah. So mine has the biggest story. So Inferno came out. I had pretty much max gear. I had a twisted bow pretty early on because I just bought it because I had a fuck ton of extra gold. And I was pretty much delaying doing Inferno. I was saying I need an Ellie. And then I get spooned a 3-man T-bow. and then I'm like, well, shit, now I have an LE. And I delay for another few weeks to get some GP for some more supplies, and then I start summoning attempts. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Died a triple jed like 3 times in a row, quit the game, and quit for about 5 years. Come back and start summoning again. Also before Masori came out, so I still have the not complete cheese,
But you
but
were using was it Armadillo, basically?
yeah, it was with Armadillo, it was with the
Yeah.
old room patch, but I had the Eldritch, so it was a slow cape. I had my full Justy, running South Pillar. It was the same approach I did back then, right? Back then, it's a bit more normalized to run South Pillar. Like South Pillar was a pretty important thing
Sure.
back then. So that's what I was used to. Run South, go shitter away. People weren't speed running this at the time. People were, getting your first cape was a rarity. Most people were rocking the cheese cape. So yeah, I was just used to that way, and yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I personally believe no matter how you get it, especially for your first time, it's a huge achievement. So, um, I personally took the time to, I mean, we're talking like 40, 50 attempts just on the waves to really understand how they work, and I think that paid off in the end for me to really okay, nowadays, I can literally teleport. And I think I told you this in the last podcast. I could teleport to literally wave 50 plus and, I'm not even drinking any pots. It's basically brain dead. Brain dead content for me to sit there in the fucking Inferno for the first 50 waves. Before the Mage and Ranger spawn, I'm just like, holy crap, this is so boring. But upon release, I mean, it was incredible seeing Wooks. I mean, we don't know. Cyber just messaged me. We don't know like how hard it was back then, and back then it seemed impossible. We're like, holy, how are these people doing this? And that's where we leaned on Wooks. And do you guys remember the top release at all?
that was not playing.
Vaguely. I just heard that it dropped. I was nowhere near ready to do that by then, but it was cool to check it out. I think I did just ask some people like around the release time, like, "Hey, can I spectate?" I think you also needed to do that to unlock the music tracks, if I recall correctly. So I think
Yeah.
that's what I did. I remember just watching, just being like,
Yeah.
"Damn, this looks so
Yeah,
intense."
absolutely. And so like even with TOA, I am so hyped for RuneScape releases because usually I actually the most recently thing is leagues. I mean, we
Yep.
have the most players coming to this game. We have the most people watching Twitch on RuneScape, and it's just incredible to see.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I wish the hype would stay the same, which is impossible. But like you see it time after time again, where you have the Inferno. Holy shit! There's probably 100K viewers watching old school RuneScape, and then you have TOB, and then you have leagues, etc., etc. And TOA was a pretty big one as well. That's, I mean, I don't know. It makes me happy about this game because it's, more or less the only game that I play, and I enjoy that.
definitely agree. Definitely at the point where you just like want to see the game thrive and just do good, and just so it's around in like 10 years or so. And then as for leagues, shoot, man, I was going to like 5 in the morning for God, like 4 weeks every single night. It was getting the hell out of it.
So
But it felt like making a brand new account. It kind of felt like you were learning stuff again. So that was definitely a hype moment for me.
So you did play leagues?
Yes, sir.
I've
Got
personally
the
never
Dragon
been a
Trophy.
player to play leagues or deadman mode, anything like that. I've always stuck to the main game. What's your experience with leagues and how, I mean, does this one differ from any of the previous years?
So all the leagues really revolve around like completing tasks, and you know how it has a list. It shows you what you can do. You could sort it out based on partial completion, what you have the requirements for, etc. And I think that's what really drew me in because at first I was like, yeah, I'll just see how it goes. And then once you start completing tasks, you see the points adding up, and then you start doing OP stuff like, you know, maging at like 2 tick crazy stuff like that. That's what keeps you going. Just like wanting to unlock more stuff. Definitely, well, in my case, get the Dragon Trophy, which I eventually ended up doing. And yeah, it was just basically a condensed version of the game that you're just speed running through and coming up with strategies on how to knock out tasks, and it was pretty fun.
Gotcha. Did you feel like you were wasting any time in the main game by playing leagues?
Not at all. You know, when you're maxed and you're just hunting for pets at that point, doesn't really feel like much you're missing out on.
Got you.
Yeah, I mean, I have not played leagues. I don't really care too much about it, uh, because mostly I do just want to. If I'm spending time on RuneScape, I'd rather progress on my own account, even though it's all RNG based progress at this point anyway.
Mhm.
But I do think it's generally a better mindset to have when it's like you should never treat it as, oh, I'm wasting time that I could be spending on this instead, because that generally is effectively if you just treat it as any other activity that isn't playing video games, right? I mean, you compare that to this is time I could be progressing my account or something,
Right.
right? That's just going to be a bad approach to
Yeah.
generally
And
anything.
and to be honest, unfortunately, that's the view that I have is like, why am I playing leagues temporary game mode when I could just be on my main account? Yeah, and some people don't understand that, and I totally understand. But but yeah. Anyways, moving on. What is your guys' favorite content in the game today? It could
Uh,
be literally anything.
um,
TOB slash raids, like maybe TOB to Cox and then TOA. TOA being least
What
favorite.
makes you still play this game today? So top for you, Godsword, is that only because you are still hunting the pet?
I'd say it's still my favorite raid, uh, even after I get pet. I mean, I'm not going to be doing it as frequently after I get pet, of course, because other ones. But at the end of the day, it's a game, so I'd rather do things I enjoy, and so I do enjoy it. So I'm going to stick with still doing Tobber for a while.
And okay, so basically, Tob is your favorite content. Um, Jimmy.
Yeah, uh, more or less TOB. I'm not super amazing at it, but I try to get them clears. I still need the pet, the dust, and the kits and whatnot. Slowly putting my foot in the door with the hard mode, so it's pretty fun on that part. Chambers just need a pet, so it's my only reason why I'm going back there. And for TOA, I just need the transmogs really, and I'm done there.
Right.
So
So yeah, I think what makes me happy about this game as well is grinding basically the pets or collections or dusts that we need. Uh, I I personally have fun in this game with the PVM.
Actually,
So
no, I'll retract on my answer a little bit. I'll retract and say social aspect of this game, which is on and off in terms of how many people actually interested in that part of it. But
Oh, absolutely.
I'd say if it was not
Honestly,
for things like Discord existing and being so good, I'd probably have quit this game and never came back.
Yeah, and I'm sure, have you made like basically lifelong friends? So playing this game, have you like you've probably made friends that you would literally meet up in person with across the world.
I've only met up with Bart, mostly because he lives not far away now. But yeah, there's a few people that I pretty much
Have known
more
for
or less like
years.
know. We know each other in real life, virtual.
Right.
That makes any sense. So we'll meet eventually when one of us is in each other's area.
Yeah. So a big part of, so for me personally, when I was living in Germany, uh, some of my best friends that I've ever made in this game were they were Dutch, and we knew each other for like 2 years. Unfortunately, never got to meet them personally, but you know, this game has such a, I mean, it's basically worldwide, and it was just, I don't know. It's a good, I do like the social aspect as well, and it's very fun. So, as a favorite content, everybody agrees on raids, basically.
pretty
Mm,
much.
yeah, I mean
Raid
it's
slash
mostly
social
good.
aspect.
Yeah, it's the most social aspect of the game. Everything else is just kind of single player content in a multiplayer game. I like
Hmm.
doing clips though. No one wants clips.
Okay. So, my next question, PvP. What is your opinion on PvP in old school RuneScape?
Go for it, Jimmy.
About
What's the hatred?
about as
What's the
far as I
hatred
go is ice browsing people at Soul Wars and stuff like that. So can't really say.
That is
We
not PvP.
There
Come
you
on.
go. So yeah, pretty much. So that's all you got to know, really.
I
I'm not
so
opposed to it.
the reason why I asked this question is because there's obviously a huge divide between PvM and PvP in this game. What why do and I think the majority of people who play this game enjoy PvM more.
I think I think PvP died because a lot of community is just not interested in PvP because people like one what's rewarding and makes progress on your account. And that's just the mindset of the majority of players. PvP does not accomplish that. And as a result, it just takes a back seat. I think they put a lot of work into trying to make updates for people who generally aren't that interested in it. People aren't even all that like when they released PvP Arena, I genuinely think in terms of its objectives, it is a very good update. But a lot of people don't like it. But they're like, I need rewards, but it's like, well, what kind of reward can you make that isn't just, especially in like an activity like that where you could just farm off your friends, right? The objective of it was simple. It's a place to, if you enjoyed just doing PvP, you don't care about getting some loot drop, you want even fights, fair gear, or it's a perfect place. You could practice there for free. In the past, if you remember what people used to do in Duel Arena way back when like the wilderness got removed initially in RS2, they would just gear up, and if they did not want to lose stuff in like the wilderness, they just go to PvP Arena and they go Duel Arena and they gear up and waste their supplies, literally just fight. They would lose money just to enjoy doing a fight. And this also was a smart move because it helped replace a lot of private server activity, I'm sure. Since why do people play private servers? They want to do PvP, but they want to use whatever gear they want, and they don't want to sit there and grind for stats or earn the money to do it, make a special account for it, etc.
Yeah. I personally believe that there's just enough big community of PvP that has a voice to complain. And I, I just there's no influence for me for PvP. I mean, every try, I don't want to lose my items. Every time that I've literally tried to maybe to go venge fighting in a PvP world, I mean, I'm dead. It's just and and a lot of people have this view that the community is toxic in general.
Yeah. I would say, well, first, if you ever, I don't know how it is now with Bounty Hunter. I'm sure it's the same thing. Back then, Grand Exchange PvP for PvP worlds, if you showed up on an account that people did not recognize, everyone would follow you and ask you to fight.
Yeah.
If you had a reputation for being good, people would just walk away. No one would really walk up and ask you to fight unless they felt that you were better, that they were better than you. Because to a lot of people, it's like, well, why would I waste my time fighting this guy when this guy looks like free loot because he's doing PvP for the first time?
Yeah.
It's probably a bit different with Bounty Hunter because you get a target, but
Yeah. And like the PvPers, they're begging for updates and they've got the Rev Caves, they've got now BH and and I'm not in that scene, so I don't really understand, but it seemed like it was hyped during the initial release, but I'm not too sure how it's going now. I don't know if they're happy. I really haven't heard too much from the PvP community nowadays.
I think it's good they keep it alive because realistically, from a viewing angle for like streamers and any content, it's usually more exciting for PvP content than it is for a lot of PvM stuff. Because when a boss has a very specific rotation, and you know what that rotation is, you'll notice a lot of content looks very similar. It's not as exciting, except to, I'm sure, if you upload a new world record, people might be interested in that weird item in your inventory that you brought that manipulates a tick or some shit. And yeah, like the few people in that same community will care about that. But realistically, for casual viewing content, that is often the more interesting thing to watch. That's why like streams for PvP will usually get a lot more views than the Iron Man killing Bloodvelds. At least I think. I don't really check
Right,
Twitch, but yeah,
right. Like I can't watch Bodhi. I mean, we're doing so present day. He's doing TOA. I mean, and I can't sit there and watch him, even though he's one of the best RuneScape streamers to ever exist. I can't watch somebody just doing TOA all day. I like what are we grinding for here? Like
yeah.
it's monotonous, and unless you love that streamer, and for example, Known Monkey is somebody who I watch a lot, but he switches up his content. He does chamber speeds, so he has that aspect of, oh, could this raid be a new PB, or he does Inferno speeds, or TOA Dolo. So he keeps it interesting for me enough to watch.
That's fair.
But yeah. So enough about PvP. I want to talk about Desert Treasure 2. This came out, I want to say late 2023. Maybe not late 2023, but maybe was it summer?
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, probably summer 2023. What are your guys' overall opinions about DT2?
It
Uh,
was a very fun quest, and the bosses were well designed. They knocked it out of the park with that one.
I thought you already asked the question last time, but my answer is the same. Where's my prayer so I can get my CG time?
I asked you during a raid about this.
Oh,
so
okay,
the
okay.
cast and
That sounds
really
familiar.
hear your answer. But
Uh,
yeah, I agree. The quest absolutely phenomenal. I am somebody who enjoys quests, not necessarily enjoys them, but I don't mind to do them.
I like
And
Quest.
yeah, like I have no problem doing quests. Um, Initially when it was released, I was scared. I'm like, hey, 4 bosses seems like a lot. Like,
So
did you guys have any opinion on that aspect?
I
Oh
was
yeah, just getting my ass handed to me by Vard. I was like, there's no way I'll be able to do this, but eventually I did.
mm, I was kind of not entirely sure on how they were going to release like 4 entirely unique bosses,
Right.
especially in such a short time span for like one. Usually, I was also. I remember. I think I voted no, but the reason I voted no is because they said they were all solo bosses, and I'm like, when are we getting a team boss? I want a
Hmm.
fucking team boss. And we were spending every single release. I get it. Iron Men want the solo bosses. They don't want team bosses that require a team that you cannot do solo. I'm sure a lot of the other rest of the community that thinks everything should be a single player piece of content also did not want team bosses. But I was like, no, give me team bosses. Give me stuff I can do with friends that I'm not gonna feel like I'm making a mistake by doing this in a team because it's more efficient to do this solo. Like I want an excuse to justify doing things in a team.
Yeah. And do you guys remember the whole drop rate situation with the rings?
Yes.
Yep.
Like, I think it was maybe like what, day 3, and everybody's like we haven't gotten a ring yet. Like, what's going on? Do you like that drop method, or do you prefer something different?
Um, Honestly, if there was just something that said, "Hey, you hit the vestige roll," then I guess I'd be a little more cool about it. But you're just kind of sitting there wondering, "Okay, am I 2-3 or what?" And of course, you get pull the ingot. It's a nice little kick in the dick, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, can't complain too much because it did what they were accomplishing, making it to where people weren't crazy spooned, but still had to kind of work for it.
I think I agree. One, I really appreciate it if they just sent you a notification or showed you some way to see what your progress is with each boss. Because it just I think the biggest problem is I wouldn't actually care about that aspect. But the reason I care about it is because they also have a second drop, which these two drops are a bit counterintuitive. The axe piece, where once you get it, you have an incentive to kill the other bosses instead of continuing the same one. But you might be 2-3 on this one, and it's one of these things where you feel like you can never complete it. It's it's as if like you were storing a bunch of these different brimstone ring pieces, and they were just taking up bank. The only difference, these don't take up bank slots, essentially, right? But you want to get rid of it. You want to like clean it out. So you go back, and then you get another piece of the axe. You get a disproportionate number of axe pieces because you're going dry at one of the bosses, and as a result, this kind of makes it a bit clunkier. So I see what they were trying to do, but I feel they should not have done these counterintuitive mechanics. I don't know how much sense I made with that, but
No, absolutely. I 100% agree. Like, hey, you hit the vestige drop and you're 2 out of 3, you're 1 out of 3. That, just knowing that is would be amazing. Because so personally, my experience with the bosses so far are I was one of the lucky few to actually complete the axe very early on. Um, and so during the quest, I actually got the Eye of the Duke. So I got the axe piece from the Duke, 1 KC. And it's like, okay, my point is to go kill another boss. And I believe it was Vard next. And I got spooned on that one. And I was asking my friends, like, hey, what do I do? And they're like, hey, you need to go for the axe. Went from the Whisper next. Got spooned on that as well. And I was like, okay, screw this. Let's go to Leviathan. Here I am. I believe I got the last axe piece about 300 KC Leviathan. Um, However, and that completed my axe, right? And I sold it for a whole bunch of GP because it was new. But here comes this bingo event, and one of our tasks is to kill the Leviathan or whatever. And now I'm 830 KC, right? When the hell is my Vestige coming? 830.
Oh, it's
I
coming
don't
next
know
to
if I'm
it.
2-3. I've gotten 2 verse pieces. It's just like, holy crap, man.
Sounds like you're 2-3.
Yeah, exactly. But I could be 1-3. I could be 0-3. Nobody knows. But overall, I do think DT2 was a pretty big success. I'm a big fan of what they did. The Virtus, sure, it's pretty niche, but whatever. Um, and I, in the future, if they do um, add prayers to the game, I hope they add it to the already existing prayer book. That's just my opinion. And not add a whole new prayer book. Do you have any opinions on that?
Well, the main reason they wanted to make a separate prayer book is they wanted more situational usefulness for something. So it wouldn't always be better, but often, you know, it would be better essentially. I'm contradicting myself, but the essential idea was there was some risk with using this other one, and it was also a higher prayer requirement. So yes, generally it would be better. There are exception cases where the other is better, which is completely fine because that's pretty much the case with spellbooks as well. No one's really arguing that the standard spellbook was power crap. No one uses the standard spellbook except for chambers because you need a fire demon stick, ice demon stick, and a
Yeah,
spell made for the ice
fire
demon.
surge, basically.
Yeah. So that's like the only exception of the standard spellbook being used, which is still fine, right? It's fine for other options to be better than the initial base, and it's also fine for a skill that provides combat levels to be useful past level 74. Because let's be honest, no one cares about augury.
Yeah, augury is technically weak, and it drains way too much prayer when you're using it. I mean, I don't use augury during TOB. I don't use augury during TOA, except at the very last part of basically P4 Wardens. I mean, you're better off
Well,
using
you should,
Mystic Might.
I don't remember exactly because I haven't touched TOA in millions of years, but I'm pretty sure that you should be using augury for P2 because your accuracy determines your minimum hit.
Mm.
Accuracy actually matters, arguably more than strength bonus, just because it's easier to scale accuracy than it is to scale strength.
Gotcha.
But
But
I
I
don't
do
know.
agree, augury is definitely weaker than rigor per se.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a new skill on the horizon. And
We
do you
do.
guys know what it is?
Oh, is it divination?
No,
Jimmy?
bro, it's engineering.
Oh,
Except
sure.
that at sea.
What are your thoughts and opinions on sailing already being maxed?
So I think the best thing about summoning being the next skill is probably the Pekya.
Say, come on, man.
They had to. Um, I think similar to what I partially maybe almost said last time, if they reverse integrate sailing, and as unpopular as it would be, especially I'm sure among Ironmen, removing things like charter ships from the game and replacing it with a requirement to sailing, removing a lot of ways that people would get around through boat that currently exists, move it to sailing. You'd have different routes to go there, a lot of islands, a lot of quests can even be updated, so it feels like sailing was part of the game to begin with. Maybe for something like lunar diplomacy fits perfectly. You need a sailing requirement to complete the quest, and I'm sure it'd be a bit of spaghetti for them because you'd essentially have people with the quest completed, and they'd have a slightly different quest. But it'd be so valuable if they spent the time to do that because the skill would feel like it was part of the game all along instead of feeling like all the old content it barely applies, which is why I branched into Zaya before, where Zaya came out and just felt like it did not belong because no quests took place there. It was just a wasteland all on its own that didn't feel part of the game, and it just kind of broke any immersion for the game itself. Like I don't like video game world design s. I feel like there needs to be something that makes it feel a bit more organic, even though it's a bit useless for game design. But to each their own opinion.
Jimmy?
Yeah, about the same. Sorry,
So
last a little.
being max, like when I believe I can't remember what I initially voted for when the skill pitch happened. But being a newly-ish max player, I was like, I'm screw this. We don't need another skill in this game. And I was heavily just against having a skill. But being maxed for a while now, I'm like, okay, I'm cool. I wouldn't mind another skill in this game, to be honest with you. And sailing, sure, that's what the people want. Whatever. Like, do you, like, what's your opinion on already maxing and then already having a skill or having a new skill to grind?
Mm,
Honestly, I was a little opposed to it at first, but then going back to like what I said like way earlier about just, you like the game, you want it to keep going, and you want new players to come in and enjoy it. So that'll be part of, going towards that. And then personally, I haven't really read much into the new skill. I probably read like the first draft that they had released. Because when it does drop, I'd rather just dive into it blind, try to figure stuff out on my own before, like hitting up like the wiki or what have you. But
Sure.
just the idea that they put forth, like just exploring, possible events along the way to your destination, stuff like that, had me intrigued. So,
Yeah. I
um,
think, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think people have a hard time understanding what's the skill progression here. Like, how are we getting XP, right? You're sailing the sea, I guess, but like, how are we gaining XP? And I'm sure they go over that in the blogs, but like, just thinking about it, it's like hard to co comprehend that. But anyways,
they
I'm
did cover it.
huh?
They did cover it in the blogs. I don't remember because it's been a long time and I haven't read any of the updated ones. I just read like the initial, what the proposal is on how it would be trained, and there'd just be a variety of methods. One of them would be actually just sailing. One of them would be doing stuff on the islands that you'd unlock, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So, yeah, initially I was like, hey, I just got my max cape. Like, it's not cool. You're gonna take my max cape away from me. But yeah, I think it's about time. And whenever it releases, I'm sure I'll get it a 99 eventually. type thing, so it's really not that big of a deal. And to be honest with you, I miss leveling up skills, so that's a
You
big
missed
part
getting the
for
level
me.
up message.
Huh?
You missed the level up message.
Yes, I do.
Yep.
Don't worry, there's a plugin for that.
Yeah, anyways, the polling system. So I'm a big advocate on this for Twitter, is like whatever Jagex is putting in the polling system nowadays is getting passed. Like they lowered, I don't know if you guys know this, but they did lower the threshold from 70% to uh or
75 to 70.
75 to 70. Yeah. And that has made a huge difference. I mean, what is your opinion on the poll system throughout the years?
I mean, technically 51% is majority, but I think it's good, but also a lot of stuff passes not necessarily because they've it's not because of the changes they made, it's because they generally just don't pull things they know that won't pass.
Yeah, like with forestry, a lot of people were kind of complaining that people were rubbish stamping that kind of content without really looking into what you were going to do, and with how much of a content bloat that kind of turned out to be, could see why people were starting to call for, I guess, a little more control over the polls. But
Oh.
personally, don't really have much of a solution towards that.
So this forestry changes, I actually have no idea what the second batch of forestry changes were because I was not playing again during
Neither
that
do I.
period. So what is that flash?
It's
I think
like random events while woodcutting, and in order to partake in certain random events, you needed to create basically currencies. Like there was making a spoon that had like a little cushion tied to it just so you could carry your pheasant eggs, and um, you had to make like a druidic wreath in order to summon the dryad or whatever. So basically, you just needed to make a bunch of items to summon these things, and it just kind of strayed away from what woodcutting was.
I agree.
right.
Yeah.
So, did you guys both so I played Forestry Part 1, literally got the rewards in like 2 days, and I was done. I was like, okay. And then Forestry, maybe like a month or 2 months later, Forestry Part 2 comes out. I'm not even interested in it anymore. What are your thoughts on that?
Had it not been for the pet transmogs, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I'll probably go for the mods. But I think for content like forestry, it definitely by the description, it sounds like content bloat for sure. It's also very weird and gimmicky from the sounds of it. So I can't say I'm
Yeah,
too
I,
keen
I,
on
it was
it
an
done.
interesting update to say the least. I mean, it literally changes woodcutting at its foundation.
Really, all they needed to change wood cutting was just make it so other people chopping the tree would not grief you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a controversial subject. I mean, it's woodcutting, so it doesn't really affect a lot of people. I know days of release, and I'm sure to this day it's still very popular and the worlds are full. So, I mean, it's
It's
probably good for
popular
new
because it's
players.
faster XP than the alternatives.
Huh?
I remember also what I wanted to say on the note of forestry when they were first discussing certain possible rewards that they wanted to give to it, like similar if you remember like bonfire boosts or like temporary boosts that would occur or some potions or something that would give you these temporary boosts for really specific things. I was appalled that they were going to pull something like this because this is the shit people hate above all else. When all this random gimmick shit comes out into the game and you have to, oh, you want to do TOB, wait, did you make sure you did your forestry potion daily run? I don't know exactly what I
Yeah,
want to do.
absolutely.
I
And
don't want all
yeah,
this shit.
I think what's deterring me from forestry is like, dude, there are so many items involved. I don't know what is what. I don't know what this is for that.
Yeah.
It is just a complete mess. A complete mess.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
And, it's just, I mean, at this point in the stage of the game, I wish they would have thought about that a little bit more before adding basically a 30 item reward shop where each item literally has a specific use. And to know what they do, I have to read a fucking 4-page blog post about it.
Yeah, definitely overcomplicated
I'm
for
like, yeah, it literally
working.
puts my brain in a fucking scramble.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that was a big turnoff for forestry for me. A lot of people are attracted to the transmogs, especially if you have the beaver, and I think that's very cool. But other than that, it's like, okay, these events, I'm like, what is going on? You have to join you have to join a clan chat to know where the events are. It's it's just ridiculous in my opinion. And and I hate to ramble on here, but talking more about that, yeah, I don't know if you guys recall like the pictures and stuff that they had with the blog posts. It looked like forestry was gonna be like its own like area, maybe in Zaya near the Woodcutting Guild, but
Yeah, it did.
it was released world RuneScape wide. Did that surprise you?
Mm,
Yeah, based on the promo art, I guess I kind of took it that way too, that there was going to be like a specialized area for it. But
yeah, it looked like a mini game
yeah,
on the art.
Right. But that's my opinion on forestry. It's just whatever content. It's really not for me. But it doesn't really have an impact for me in the game. But
Same.
anyways, I want to dive in here to clues. So I know you did an elite clue earlier, Godsword.
Always the
What?
only player in the game.
Yeah. Why are you doing elite clues?
Got to get rank 1 elite clue, of course. I don't know. I don't feel like killing hellhounds for some hard clue scroll and then opening implinks for the other two. I'd rather just do my elite and take my 20% chance. I'm not in a rush for getting the bloodhound pet because I know I'll get it eventually at like by the time I get all the other pets and all the other shit that I'm gonna go for, I'll have so many clues completed that I'd be far past the amount of masters that are needed for drop rate. And if I still don't get it, well, I guess it's bad RNG. What could you do?
Yeah. And do you think, Jimmy, what's your opinion on clues?
personally, I like them. Even as a kid, I was super stoked to do them. That was like one of the first things I wanted to do when I first became a member.
Did you ever properly do a clue scroll? Did you ever use your
Oh
watching
yeah,
sextant?
yup, the sextant, all that.
God,
I
there's no
Oh yeah, man.
shot.
It
that
was literally like,
didn't sound
oh,
like fun.
okay, these are the coordinates. Time to dig.
No way.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my brain would not figure that out.
I don't know how I had the patience for that, so thank God for Runelight, right?
I do like how they updated the clue reward space a few years ago. Do you think and to be fair, I think there's time for another one. Like let's give more clue rewards, let's give more cosmetics.
I'm trying to
I
see
think
it like in third age two-hander or something. I'd be all over that.
third age Godsword. Let's go.
Oh man, that would be sick.
But yeah, realistically, they just need to accidentally introduce a bug that makes third age pickaxes a guaranteed drop and do nothing after they patch it and just like let a bunch of them enter the game to fuck over all the people merching them. Just because why not?
I'm a big fan of clues, and to be honest, I nowadays I really only do the clues if I have nothing else left to do. I'm like, oh, I have a elite clue in my bank. I'll turn this into a master. Let's go do a master because I'm that bored. And to be
Yep.
honest with you, that's okay. Like I'm completely fine with doing that.
Yep, I let it get to where I'll I'll have like the master clue and then the clues with Watson and then the extra additional clues in the bank, and that's where I'll finally go knock them out.
So
So I'll have like 3 master caskets pretty much every session.
okay. I've never done that before. That's yeah, a lot of people get the kick out of opening multiple caskets at once.
Yeah, I only got the patience for those 3. I would just like want to open them up as soon as I finish the third one.
Yeah, for sure.
That's small.
Something that I do with especially with masters is like once I get the casket, I'll click it and look away from my screen. If I hear collection log slot completed, I'll look and I'm like, oh shit. But yeah.
Neat.
Oh, there's Kuno Volgan making an appearance.
What? Huh?
We're actually just getting ready to wrap up the podcast. And here he is.
Huge plot twist.
Colonel, what?
Huh? What? Volgan, since you're here, my last question was about clues. Are you
Fuck
clue
'em.
sco- Huh?
Bad content. Delete them from the game. That's my opinion.
Have you never done clues in your life?
Oh, I've done clues. I've done a couple of clues. I don't like them.
Are you saying there's time for a content overhaul with new items, or you just don't like them?
So many annoying steps, so many wilderness steps. And then you go into the wilderness and it's always going to be in multi so that fucking mage trio spawns. So you can't just simply 3-item the clue in case you get it, in case someone tries to kill you. You need to get a clue box and actually gear up for a fight. Now, if you're going to gear up for a fight, but you can't bring your best shit, what's the point of like getting geared up, right? So you're in fucking rags in the middle of the wilderness. You're in fucking salad robes holding a water stick, hoping that somebody doesn't log in with something stronger than a rune crossbow to one-shot you. Fuck clues.
Okay, well, there's a really easy solution to this.
I know,
hard
get good.
clues.
Simply become a better PKer. I am aware.
No,
If there was just less
Okay.
steps in the wilderness, or if the mage trio wasn't such cancer to fight when you're in your rag gear, that would be fun, and clues would be okay. But as it stands, I'm sitting on one of every tier, and I will never do them, just to
Alright.
make sure that I never get more as drops.
Alright, let me tell you the solution. You could bring 3 items. I bring usually a fang, Torva body, Torva legs, and then you can bring like a glory, and that's it. You just pray mage and you can kill them. The other thing is, instead of bringing a clue box, what you do is when you get attacked, all you need to do is run as close as you can to a teleport spot, right? One you can get back to. So, for example, if you have like the castle in 50s as your clue step, all you need to do is run towards the obelisk, even if you're teleblock, and drop the clue scroll. Let them kill you. They get nothing, right? They get their spade. And then you hop worlds because the clue scroll is non-tradable, so it follows you. And then you just go straight back, pick it up, and you're all set.
I never thought about that.
Big brain.
Wow.
Big
All right,
brain.
all right. Am I allowed to change my opinion?
So I will say
Clues-
that's
Clues
why
are okay, but if I test that method and it turns out to be cancer, then I rescind my clues are okay and I go back to my original fuck 'em.
to be fair, I've
I've
never
never
really
lost
been
control,
have that
and I've
issue
been
where I'm in
clue box.
the wilderness and a PK comes while doing a clue because my mouse is literally hovering over the logout button. However, I will say a big turnoff, especially for hard clues, it seems like a lot of their steps are in the wilderness.
I
I
just
don't.
hate the gearing a lot.
What was that?
I hate de-gearing for wildy steps because I'm
Yeah,
not that
absolutely,
gearing builder.
absolutely, for sure. But okay, we know Volgan doesn't like clues. I would say it's basically a mid consensus all around about clues.
Clues in RS3 are fun. I like clues in RS3.
Of course you do.
And this guy sitting here trying to pitch RS3.
No, it's just like RS3 does some things right that old school doesn't. RS3 lets you stack up clues so you don't have to let, first kill on the Dagannoth King's trip and I got a hard clue. I guess I better go and do this now, otherwise I'm wasting potential. So then you go and do the hard clue, run all the way back to Dagannoth King's. Oh, third kill of the trip, got another hard clue. Better do this now so I'm not wasting potential. RS3, you get fucking like 50 of each tier of clue and then you just go do them all whenever you want.
Okay. Yeah,
Sounds a
I would
lot
like that too.
about leagues to me.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's pretty much how Leagues is.
Leagues literally takes content from RS3, and then people are like, wow, this is such a fun way to play the game. I sure wish we could play RuneScape like this. And then they don't try RS3,
You
even
see,
though it has all the fun stuff.
I'm permanently hating RS3. Then it doesn't matter what they do at this point. I feel betrayed. Like
Yeah,
I feel
EOC sucked
so
on
hurt.
release, but it's better now. Try it.
It's not that. It's the fact that to me, my feeling with RS3 has always been
Kill
this,
Guppy.
where
Okay.
this is the game I love, the game I grew up with. I remember like this the exact words that Chris Archie used. It feels like a child had his favorite toy stolen from him. And it's pretty much like there was nothing he can do, no matter how much he begged and pleaded, and every other kid begged and pleaded, just let them enjoy what they enjoyed, and they said fuck off. Right. And that's the only memory that sticks with me from RS3, and that's just kind of the picture it'll always keep. I just can't.
RS3 is just like the whole evolution of combat. I just never really saw a need for it in it. I mean, we're talking.
Unpopular opinion, RS3 did need evolution of combat. As much as I hate it, the thing is they fucked up in the direction of the game already, and they realized that they were running out of content because you see how slowly this game power creeps things. RS3 didn't do that. When they would release things, it would just be leagues ahead of everything else, and they were running out of ideas. Right now, even, they're making like level 91, level 92, level 93 weapons because we don't have enough tiers left available.
Are you talking about this game or main game?
RS3.
Oh yeah, the highest tier of weapon is now 95.
Yeah, and they do it in these really small increments because they realize like we're running out of design space.
Well, to be fair, I
And-
mean, you can say the same thing about old school. I mean, where do we go up from a scythe? Where do we go up from the best in slot melee weapon? I mean, we have to make it
best in
another
slot-
tier, right? Or what?
Yeah,
That kind of wraps around to the question about future content ideas that we had yesterday. I think it's going to just turn into nichescape similar to RS3, where you have one item that you only use one place, and we're going to have a lot of those.
I 100% think Raids 4 is actually going to be the garbage hybrid armor shit that nobody is going to ask for, but it's the only gap really left. Other than low HP gimmick that they went for. Maybe I'm just not creative enough to think of my own ideas, but
We need God Wars 2. It's time, Jagex.
Hey, that is something that wow. I've never even heard it. Somebody suggest that before. God Wars 2. That could
that's
be a
in
thing.
RS3.
Is it a thing in RS3?
Yes. Do you want me to tell you the lore?
Tell me the reward space of that first.
So God Wars 1 was expanded upon its loot. We have a nerfed version of God Wars 1 loot. All the sets from God Wars 1 are complete. So there's a Bandos helmet, Bandos gloves on top of the chest, legs, and boots. There's an Armadillo gloves and boots. There's Krill, the Zamorak boss. He drops
Subjugation.
magic robes called the Robes of Subjugation. It's basically ancestral. It's the lowest tier of power armor for magic. So it's the same level as Aram, but it gives us a strength bonus instead of strictly defense stats. God Wars 2 released the Anima Core versions of the melee, ranged, magic, and hybrid versions of these armors at tier 80 instead of tier 70. So you get 10 tiers worth of accuracy, defense, and damage bonus. So imagine Bandos, but stronger. Not quite as good as Torva, but the reason why Torva is still good in RS3 is a lot of explanation, so I'll skip that. So just imagine it being better than Bandos, worse than Torva, but Torva is still necessary for other things. It's better than Anima Core. Sorry, it's better than Robes of Subjugation. It's better than Armadillo, and then you have that crappy hybrid armor that is not really good anywhere outside of like certain niche AFK Slayer.
Right. And I would really hate the reward space for this next raid to be niche hybrid armor. But unfortunately, like you said, like RS3 is up to like 95 attack level for the best in slot weapon. I mean, old school RuneScape seems like it would eventually reach that point.
It's definitely going to, because
I mean that it seems inevitable.
Yeah, the combat system pretty much just has, if bigger number occurs, then it's just better. Everything else is very limited on design, right? Design is heavily focused on protection, prayer, nulling 100% of damage. It's very focused on just what does the most damage. So you're just going to have to make something objectively better. And since all the raids currently control the best in slot gear for every style, right? What do? Do you make the next raid just an objective upgrade, or do you keep on doing you could break down Ancestral now and you can make it into the new gear?
Subjugation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. I mean, we're about to get the new best in slot range cape with Colosseum, and then after that, it's like, what's next? I mean, what else best in slot are we about to get? I mean,
Mage and range boots.
Boots.
Those
yeah,
are needed.
I was literally just about to say boots. I mean,
Yeah.
we just got the best in slot rings, so there's only so many best in slots.
I have a feeling that they'll nerf the occult. They'll transfer some of the percent damage bonus from the occult to other mage items, and then release a new best in slot mage necklace, which is similar to the occult in its current form.
Yeah, that
I
would
could see
actually
that.
be really cool.
Because the devs have talked about they're unhappy with how strong the occult is in its current form.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you just give 1% to the boots, 1% to the ring, 1% to the shield, 1% to the cape, 1% to the top, bottom, and legs, or hat, top, and bottom for ancestral. That's 7% out of the occult, but wearing max mage, your damage would still be the same. So then you just drop the occult and get a better necklace, and you get a slight damage increase.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to give anything to the mage boots, because then the range boots would be the odd one out, and I feel they're just upgrade all three of them at the same time.
I guess.
Hybrid boots. It's time, Jagex.
I mean, I'm honestly not looking forward to 9-way switches becoming a meta anymore.
Right. I don't think
We need resizable inventories.
Yeah. Do you guys see, speaking of that, do you guys see us having tool belts or an extra? What would your opinion being like an extra inventory slot, as in like a gear slot?
All right, hold up. I got a genius idea.
Okay.
if you switch your account to a Jagex account, you get 2 extra.
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
God.
Damn.
Dude,
Damn it.
they need to hire me for marketing.
They
Holy
got me.
shit.
Yep. You got me.
What in one day? 90% conversion. Guaranteed.
So RS3 has this fun little gear slot called the pocket slot. This is where you can put things like books, for example. So the Book of the Dead, or if you have like pouches, like a certain pouch, you could just put it in your pocket, and then it doesn't take up an inventory slot. I think that would be pretty cool. A lot of pocket slot
Yeah.
items don't have stats, but there are some very, very powerful pocket slot items that do have stats and do increase damage. So that could be a potential reward space, is just a straight up new gear slot. Or
For sure. And I'm not opposed to that at this point. I feel like if we started off small, maybe with like a tool belt, saying, hey, let's put our hammer, saw, basically any tool that you could use around game, a rake, seed dibber for farming, it's just automatically on your person. Like starting small like that, I feel like it'd be okay.
So actually, one thing I think would be a genuine good update, even though it would be more power creep, just kind of virtue of how it is. A second ring slot, but you cannot use stat-based rings. And this opens up more room for gimmick-based rings. Because the thing is, a lot of gimmicks are going to get phased out eventually when just stronger stats come out, right? Like, a lot of gimmicks were made around different stats. Maybe the Brimstone had some actual uses, but realistically, let's be honest, after a certain point, a 4 strength bonus ring that just gives some accuracy on the other attack styles just isn't enough to justify versus a 12 strength ring, or one that gives you magic damage or range damage based on your primary attack style for whatever activity you're. Stuff like this just has no room to exist. And also with like Light Bear coming out, there's absolutely for something like a Brimstone to exist. But you'll notice with actual gimmicks that they might release, maybe even things like maybe the Ring of the Gods, which is pretty useless, except I think the Inferno speedrunners might care about it. I don't know if they've now changed
Yeah,
the ring.
I used the Ring of the Gods when I was first starting out in the Inferno. Not so much anymore, but yeah.
I think the speedrunners do it because they keep Brigger on the entire time. But either way, I think it'd be cool to have a slot for maybe Ring of Endurance or the Ring of the Gods, because it's just prayer bonus.
So basically, like basically a combat style ring, and then the other ring slot would be more skill based.
Yeah, one of them would just be called like maybe the right hand's ring, and the other one would be the left hand's ring, and then it wouldn't be skill based. It would just be the more niche ring. So it would be the ones that aren't just strength bonus, accuracy bonus. It'd be the other ring. So prayer ring would fit. Light Bearer would fit. What else is there? Like I said, Ring of Endurance would fit. I don't know what other rings there are. Also, they should definitely let you merge the Ring of the Gods with the Ring of Endurance, because they're both equally kind of shit. So
I actually think the Ring of the Gods is pretty powerful, especially because I was using it a lot during the Inferno. That thing is OP.
it is good.
Best in slot AFK Slayer ring. Do not at me.
No shot. Use that for Slayer.
Yeah.
AFK Slayer.
I think a piece of proselyte to proselyte legs to replace your tassets is going to be better than.
I don't even want to talk about how the Light Bearer has literally become the best in slot ring basically everywhere.
Yeah.
Like
I think it'd just be good to give gimmicks a slot of their own versus the stat rings. I think it also makes sense. You have 10. Realistically, you should be able to equip 10 rings, but
yeah, we got 10 fingers, right?
yeah, I can't wait to walk around with 10 rings of dueling on.
Agreed.
All right, guys. I'm gonna wrap this up. I think we are. I don't. I mean, we could talk about some other things, but I want to save that for another podcast. Um, I just want to say I appreciate you guys coming on. Jimmy Skimmy making his first appearance on the Racer podcast.
Yeah,
We got Volgan
pleasure joining.
randomly appearing. I have no problem with that. My man loves the lore. And Godsword.
You denied him his chance to talk about the lore. You straight up tell me the rewards.
We'll get into that next time, I guess.
Yeah.
At this point, I think Volgan should write his own book about RuneScape lore.
There's nothing really I could add other than like literally just telling people to read the quest dialogue in both games because it's very good.
Agreed.
You could you know that guy that makes like all the Dark Souls lore videos? I don't know what his
Vati
name-
Vidya?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, dude.
Yeah, you could do that for RuneScape. There you go. That's your true calling.
But yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on and looking forward to having you guys in the future. So I appreciate it.
Cool.
Yep.
All right.